So these are the two guards from Delhi with James Reckleton in the middle, who was an American photographer. He visited India in 1903, and those were the typical Indian giants. And in 1963, a Turkish man uncovered an underground city after knocking down a wall in his home, the ancient city called Derinkuyu in the region of Cappadocia, 18 stories deep and could house 20,000 people. Chapels, skulls, and stables were found. So human species living underground, probably because on the surface it was nuclear war. And this was like probably maybe the 1800s or something, or 1700s. A hole in the middle of nowhere and in a field, and just like that. So have like underneath systems of caves and all that stuff. This is the 114 years mammoth, which was recovered from northern Siberia. This was published in the National Geographic somewhere around the beginning of the 20th century, 19 something, or maybe like late 19th century. Mammoths exist. They're not mythological. They existed. So, yeah. This is Altmarkt in Dresden, Germany, but it was a different Germany. So this is 1880. With the statue of Germania in the center. This was destroyed. Everything was destroyed in 1945. You can actually imagine what was the purpose, amongst other things, of the Great War, of the Second and First World War, especially the Second. And of course, those buildings were from a different time, when Germany was not actually even Germany, and the German language did not exist until like the 1900 or so. This is before and after photos of the excavations of Ephesus. So now you know, like you see before, you just say, oh, it's just a hill. Well, actually, reality, it's actually man-made. How many of these you just walk around nature and say, oh, it's just a hill or a mountain, when in actual reality it was artificially created. Before and after, this is Winnipeg City Hall. Look at the ugliness of the building afterwards and the beauty of it before, and everything before. Winnipeg, the same as with Germany and with Asia and Russia, Australia, so the whole world. This is Berlin, 1910 versus 2018. Look at how old, how ugly 2018 is in comparison with 1910. And this is, of course, the buried Easter Island Maui statue. Devoid of weathering, shows detailed carvings. And of course, how they, why the heck are they buried in ground? Nobody knows. I know, because somebody put them there, right? But that changes the history of human race. Buried retaining wall of the Kasta tomb in Greece, built on sculpted marble, 500 meters long, 3 meters tall, and a perfect circle. And you can actually see how perfect it is. And it's underground, right? It's like buried under like feet of earth or inches of earth. What happened? There you go. 1918 Walker Electric. This truck is believed to be the Walker Electric. So imagine electric truck for like proper working and stuff. And 1918, 3.5 horsepower. Why the heck did they have like electric trucks in 1918? Why the heck were they so focused in the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century on electric, and then all of a sudden we went to gas and petrol? Everything is money for the families who control the world. Chicago, 1893. People say they built this in with poor materials and just for like an exhibit. I think like this, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, this was what was left of the previous humanity, and then destroyed. They just used the fairs just to create a new story and history. But that's just me. Chicago is like one of the major top three. And exposed in the world. This is Chichen Itza, 1892, and now you can actually see how it was in 1892. So Mexico and all the other places in America, something happened and there was no humanity. That's why they were like that for a long time. Dresden in Germany, again, when you look at that, you see that it was a different humanity back in the day. Electric car at a charging station. The year is 1919, so 1919. In the middle of nowhere, in like a cabin, and you have like an electric car charging. So did they pay any electricity bills? I doubt it. So free energy everywhere you watch. First electric cars in Scranton, and this was like in the late 19th century. The first streetcar system in the US, built entirely for operation by electric power, was at Scranton. Began operation on 30th of November 1886. The initial run was between Central Scranton and Green Ridge section. Everything was electric, and you see the humans, you can actually understand that they were not the creators of these electric motors. They were from before. And For the new families, they don't like us to have infinite electricity, so and this is electric lights in Moscow. It's a painting, but nevertheless there's a reason, right? And the painting is from 1802, coronation of Alexander I. It's a painting by Fyodor Alexeyev. So again, 1802, and they had electricity everywhere. That's the thing. The Romans, excavations in Rome started in the 19th century. People have blamed me. That's why in some comments I don't like them. They said when I was like actually making a video saying that the Roman Empire is all fake, as the way they teach us. Look at that. This is Italy. This is Rome in 1899. They were digging everything out. Why? Because there was no humanity until, Italy did not exist actually. So there was like something happened in the 1700s, 1800s, and then the new humans who came, they just were digging everything out. This would not be happening in the 19th century if Rome would have been inhabited and people would just live there for like they said, right? Like the Roman Empire has fallen in the 6th century and people continue their lives. Well, Rome was covered in dirt, so the whole thing with like the reset and everything else, but people don't wish to understand. This is something I actually probably gonna watch so afterwards. So comparison with Iraq and Canada and the melted buildings and everything that we see in nature is actually not natural, but it's melted stuff with technology. But that's make a video about that afterwards. The oldest picture of Germany in Berlin, 1857. You see this and people just assume, oh, this was built by the people of the 16, 17, 1800s. No, this was actually from a previous humanity, and this transportation is not like you see the buildings and you see this primitive transportation. You actually imagine this humanity are not the creators of these huge buildings. Gendarmenmarkt in Berlin. And again, they did not speak German in Germany until 1900 when they made the first dictionary and they imposed German. So there were states, and it was different, just fascinating. Giant broken bell pictured from the 1850s. Again, who created this? And you can actually see these human beings that were not the creators. Look at that gigantic form of this stuff, and different times. You need industry, you need proper manpower, you need factories, you need lots of stuff. So you get different style. Giants on the streets of European cities in the 18th century. This is a painting of the same place and a normal human being afterwards. So you can actually see that the size of the previous humans was a lot more bigger. They were like double our size, these humans. So these are like the most like common to our humanity humans. Of course, we had like giants before, and I'm going to show you lots of giants that were discovered and covered by the Smithsonian. The Great Wall of China. Again, this is like the Great Wall of China, but these dots here are the only touristic places. So people, they're always shown these like this wall in like the brochures and tourism. So they're only shown like this, the dots here. Look at the size of the wall. So the actual wall itself, the big majority, like 90%, is like this, which is very pathetic, right? It's not like even touristic. But of course, the Chinese made this section, so that's what people go to visit. In the end, tourism is just like another way of hypocrisy. And this is again how they change history. So how to start the fake of a century. As you can see here, this on the left side, it means 890, and they added, that's in Roman letters. They added an M to make it 1890. So those 1000 years. And of course these buildings, so which means that the big majority of places that are from the 19th century, they're not from the 19th century, they're from the 9th century, which means that it's 890 years from what? From an event which some people call the birth of Jesus Christ, but we don't know if that's real, if that's actually how it happened or stuff like that. This is again something that was used by the Mongols and other people. I don't see it as a soldier helmet. I see it as, of course, I see it as a helmet for like army use, but it looks more like an antenna, metal for like wireless communication and stuff. So again, what kind of technology they had, and everything was wireless using the ether from the atmosphere and all that stuff. This is of course artistic, but It's just like, to show the whole thing with the buried buildings and how what we see on the surface is just a tiny part of what is actually happening in the reality of things. That's awesome stuff. Kansas City in 1860. Everything was full of dirt and the buildings were covered, and they were actually digging everything out because something happened, and the new humanity, the new human race was just like baffled and amazed. This is the l'ascenseur, the lift, the Notre Dame, the La Garde, Marseille, and yeah, again, you can. I don't care if you say that it was built by our humanity or not, but that's what it is. And in honesty, I see this as technology from the previous human race. And then we have the Manjarabat Fort, Karnataka. Of course, we could actually make a channel only with the star forts everywhere in the world. So all the countries have the same type of star forts, which means that it was a one empire at some point in the whole world. This is the Meenakshi Sundareshvara temple, which is not actually a temple. It's in India in 1890, so it's probably like some kind of power station or something. This is moving a 7,600 ton 80 apartment building on wheels in communist Romania just before the system collapsed, the communist collapse. So not just in Romania, but also in Russia and other countries, they had the same technology. They could just move buildings on like wheels, just like that, snap. Buildings 7,600 tons. Imagine the type of like technology that has been erased. Some temple in India as well. Look at the amount of dirt and so what happened? How did it come to actually be covered in so many layers of dirt? So something happened in the world. There was no humanity, and then the new humans, they just like took away all the earth and stuff. Obelisk and mud flood evidence in front of Massachusetts State House, Boston. This is the year 1812. Again, lots of earth and stuff. Oriental Hotel in New Zealand in 1864. Again, lots of dirt, lots of like as if like New Zealand back in, imagine 1864, people were still digging the buildings out, and they were living with this for a long time. Paleis for Volksvleit, Amsterdam, the Palace for People's Entertainment, which was built in 1864. And in the center of Amsterdam, inspired by the Crystal Palace in London. Again, this one and the Crystal Palace, probably from the previous humanity, burned down in 1929. I guess, a parking garage in Detroit in the States. Again, it's not a parking garage, it was something else before, and that's the type of like utility that our humanity gives to these places. Rambla del Mar de Plata, Argentine, built in 1913 and demolished in 1940. Yeah, right. You don't demolish. If you look at the picture, like in the horizon, look at the size of this thing. Don't tell me that in Argentina, Argentina is like literally several years ago, they celebrated the 200 and the bicentennial. So a country as young as Argentina with lots of immigrants from Italy and stuff, you don't tell me that they built this in 1913 and they demolished it 27 years later. No, this was there from the previous humanity, and as you can see, it was the same humanity that we had in Europe and Russia and Australia and Asia and China and all that stuff. Again, this is like called the A1 Nasla rock, which is a laser cut in the middle of nowhere in the Arabian desert in Saudi Arabia. Again, laser cut. Who cut this in the middle of the desert and left it there? Sea serpents, the whole mythology with like monsters of the sea, as you can see here at this Balilosaurus. So these are like dinosaurs. These are like the proper dinosaurs. When you look at it, what is the the first thing that comes to your mind? And then we have this like sea serpent stuff. This is like the cartographers drew on 17th century and before maps. So we have this in some deserts, which means that they were like left there because of a cataclysm. And then now you understand why in some of the ancient maps, for example, in these like in the 16th century, we see big serpents attacking ships, because these beings existed in a time with our humanity as well, and not mythological, just like proper dinosaurs, and probably they were destroyed afterwards, but that's fascinating. Soil accumulation in ancient Sardis in Turkey, famous excavation in 1911. Look at the size of those pillars and how everything was like covered. Steam powered elevator Muyaki apartments in St. Petersburg. This is at the beginning of the 20th century, 1902, 1903, steam powered, so free energy and everything with steam. So imagine steam, obviously like steampunk and stuff, the movies that we see with steampunk, those are actually based on reality. Tesla coil games in the 17th century, 1650 in Nuremberg. Nuremberg actually has also like that thing on the sky with like the UFOs, like the fighting amongst themselves with the technology. So you can see here, this is electromagnetism and lasers and stuff, and this is from 1650. So everything we know about the previous humanity, there was no such thing as like medieval ages, there was no such thing as like primitive stuff. Again, a bigger picture of the amphitheater at Magnesia in this case. You see this before they excavated it, and you just say, oh, it's just like nature, hill and stuff. No, it's actually a man-made structure. How many of these structures we have in the world? The Crowley Lake stone columns in California, people say, oh, it's the erosion of wind and water. Whatever, if that makes you happier, then I see artificial building or structure which was petrified with melted technology and all that stuff. The Frog Rock near Boston, again, looks exactly like a frog. So you tell me if it's just nature or it was like a giant frog petrified. This is the ruins of Chicago after the so-called fire of 1871. You know what? I show you this, and if I don't tell you where it is, you're gonna say, oh, this is like what happened, like the Germans or the Russians or the Americans, they bombarded some stuff, because it looks like a bombarding, right? It looks like a man-made stuff. I see this for the first time and I say, okay, this is man-made bombs falling on the city. But no, people say it's the fire of Chicago of 1871. Yeah, right. Well, you're welcome to believe what you wish. The Sphinx and the Great Pyramid buried, a photo of 1858, and everything was buried in this, and people like in the middle of nowhere, they're just sitting not doing anything. So again, something happened in the world, and then the new human race. That's why it was all the stuff about the famous Egyptian explorers and stuff in the 19th century. That's why we have the Indiana Jones movies. Everybody was like so amazed. Why? Because our humanity came like a new humanity, and they literally discovered all the stuff that was buried. The Veiled Christ, 1753 marble sculpture by Giuseppe San Martino in the Cappella San Severo in Naples, and people actually say lots of legends about these things because they look so real. Everybody has a theory. Definitely, this is made with technology, not with like a man, like a hand sculpture. But who am I to say something different? Thoughts on the Naka cave in Thailand? Serpent, petrified serpent. I mean, the picture speaks for itself. I don't even know why people have such a hard time oh, great. So yeah, I was like, sometimes I don't know why this happens. This was a serpent as well. Okay, sometimes, I'm sorry, I think the picture was corrupted. The Volkshalle, the unbuilt Nazi Pantheon, 290 meters high, 20-50 meters diameter dome. You can actually fit the dome of St. Peter's Basilica inside of it. This wave rock in Hayden, Western Australia, they say, oh, this is nature. No, this is actually was made by a huge machine from a previous humanity that was used to, like I told you in previous videos, to excavate materials. And this is not nature made. This is like man made with a machine. And then our humanity just arrives and we call it like that. Wi-Fi. This is what we call ancient Wi-Fi. So you see all this? This is ancient Wi-Fi. So wireless technology between the power stations. And then, of course, today, this is in Asia, of course. People say, oh, this is like for religious purposes. No. Just the same thing happens with the cathedrals and churches in the Western society. In the Eastern societies, the same stuff. Just a bit of different, like... modeling and stuff, like different style, and that's it, and start from the beginning. So these are like some of the pictures. I hope that you are going to ask questions and change your reality and allow you to see things differently. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time.